Thanks for listening to this episode of Ask Darby. Today, Darby's going to be answering a question from you about livestock farming, be it pasture, farm business, or raising the animals themselves. These episodes of Ask Darby are all about getting your questions answered. If you want to learn more from Darby, be sure to check out our regular episodes of the podcast and some of the courses that we have to offer by visiting us at grassfedlife.co or using the link below. Now let's jump right into it and see what question Darby's answering today.
Hey everyone, Darby Simpson of Grass-Fed Life. This week I'm answering a question that came in from Rose, and I really found this question quite fascinating. Rose asks, what sort of chicken tractor do you recommend for a woman wanting to do pastured poultry production for sale when she will be wearing a young child on her back? And that was the curveball that caught me off guard because I've been asked a lot of questions over the years. This is definitely a new one. But Rose, I tell you, I think the answer is pretty simple. Now, on previous episodes of Grass-Fed Life, Diego and I have discussed high and low the benefits of scale when it comes to pastured poultry. But if you're not yet producing, you got to start somewhere, and I'm definitely an advocate of starting a little bit smaller and going a little bit slower. So I think that this strategy is totally fine, and I think that as your business grows, you can modify this strategy a little bit. And one of the big things I talk about is when I'm moving chicken tractors, like I want to move as few chicken tractors as is humanly possible, just because I don't want to move any more than I have to. So I've always kind of pushed the limit, made them a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier. They're a little bit more difficult to move, but I could move more birds at one time. And there are pros and cons each way to that. Being a little bit older now and having had some, fairly serious back issues, I think lighter is better, but my perspective has changed as I've aged. So what I would suggest for you to do, honestly, is just get out on Amazon or actually just go right out to his website directly and buy a book from my good friend John Siskovich. And I think you build John's chicken tractor, which is really small and really light. Now, in 2018, I built some of John's tractors, but being me, I made them larger. And honestly, they were not very heavy at all. My then 12 turning 13-year-old son was able to move these by himself with no problems. Now, he's a pretty thick, strong kid. He's well built. He's stocky. And by the way, he did not have a child strapped to his back while he was moving these. I say all that to say I think you could make John's tractors a little bit bigger, but maybe you do that in the future. Maybe you just start with his plans as they exist today. But I know there are some other people out there that have modified the footprint a little bit to make them just a little bit larger, but I tell you, they are super easy to move. I've got a friend of mine here in central Indiana, and he built some of John's tractors when he first started, and he sent his 7 and 9-year-old daughters out there to take care of the chickens. Like, they're that light and that easy to move. The one negative of those is I don't know how tall you are. Just pay particular attention if you're building his plans to exact specifications. They're not super tall. You got to hunch over a little bit if you're very tall. So that's one thing I did. Not only did I make the footprint bigger, we made them a bit taller as well. But I kind of found out the hard way. And John says he has not had any issues with wind in his land of Connecticut, but here in Indiana, those became pretty wind prone. So there's a very simple solution for that. You can put a couple of eye bolts on opposite corners, one in the front, one in the back, and then use like a 2-foot piece of all thread with a washer, an oversized washer, and a nut as a stake to hold that guy in place if you know really strong winds are coming. Don't know where you live, but that's just one little aside that you can use to fix that problem. But look, John's design is really good. And it's really easy to build, and he gives you step-by-step instructions. I mean, it's just a fabulous little book. And again, if you don't know John, it's John Siskovich. You can look up his book on Amazon. You can get it direct from his website. Either way, I think it's a worthwhile investment. You could also look at doing a Salatin pin. That's not the end of the world. Those are also lighter and fairly easy to move. I'm personally not a fan of it. Just because of my location in the Midwest, they just got too hot. They were very efficient at killing chickens. The other thing I didn't like about those is I could only use them for broilers. John's chicken tractor design, my chicken tractor design, that I would not recommend because it's way too heavy. Unless you've got another adult to help you. They can be used for multiple things. We have raised not only broilers in those, we've ran layers in them, we ran our turkeys in them. We have used them for shelters, for sheep and pigs. Pigs tore them up. Wouldn't recommend that. We even in a pinch one time used them as a shelter for some cows because of a blizzard that came in. So they're definitely, more multifunctional with different animals, but they're bigger, they're heavier, they cost more, etc. So the Salatin pin, I don't know, that's a thought, I guess. I mean, you can move it pretty easily, I think, is the point, but you can't walk into it and you can't use it for anything else. So I just say get John's plans and build one of those. Now the downside with John's tractor, I'm going from memory here, but I'm pretty sure what John recommends is like 35 birds per tractor. I'll use a slightly higher stocking density, and I made them a little bit bigger. I was running about 75 birds in one of John's tractors. Now, something you could do to increase your batch size a little bit, if you're comfortable with this in time, is you can get some poultry netting, electric netting. And one strategy, that John has used to kind of increase the quote unquote capacity of his tractors, since they are smaller, is to use them as a day range system. So basically he would set up netting and then move his tractors, and he would let the birds out every morning. And then at night he would put them up. Now, I don't know how that would work. Hopefully they get a sense of a, homing in on that tractor and they want to go into it at night. You could also give them a little bit less feed of a morning and give them more feed of an evening, put that inside. Hopefully that lures them in. You are taking equipment in and out of the tractors at that point, but it just could kind of increase how many birds per tractor you can run, because the birds are only going to be in there for 8-10 hours. They're not in there 24 hours a day. And definitely when the birds are smaller, look, 21 days old, you put them out on pasture, I'm telling you right now, like you could put 70 birds in one of John's tractors. You're just going to have to add a second tractor when those birds get larger, so you get down to that 35 to 40-ish number per tractor. So some things to consider, and again, in time as your business grows, if you want to keep using these tractors, not invest in new ones, but increase your batch size, which I'll go back to those episodes that Diego and I did earlier on the Grass-Fed Life podcast. Like, economies of scale are huge in pastured poultry. Now, I'm not a proponent of saying, hey, just jump right in and do a batch of 500, right? But long term, you definitely want to try and work your way up if you can. Once you get up to 250, 300 birds per batch, that's when economies of scale really start to kind of kick in, particularly if you're hauling the birds to an off-farm processor. your ROI per bird just goes up exponentially. It's not linear. So that's just kind of a long-term goal that I would tell you to think about. So hope that helps you out so much, Rose. Thanks for your question. Thanks for sending this in. And if anybody else has more questions, feel free to shoot them to me, darby@grassfedlife.co. Be sure and check out all the resources we have at the grassfedlife.co website. We'll be back soon with more answers to your questions. Thanks again for sending this one in, Rose.
There you have it, Farmer Darby Simpson answering your questions. If you have a question that you'd like Darby to answer, email us, hello@paperpot.co. And if you want to learn more from Darby and more about livestock farming, visit us at grassfedlife.co and check out the library of courses that we have to offer to help you get your livestock farm started and off the ground. From beginner courses to more advanced courses, we have a lot to offer. Check out the courses at grassfedlife.co or using the link below. Thanks for listening. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.